Record button. I just figured I'd start. I know there's a couple folks that are attendees and some will be joining as a panelist. But first and foremost, if I could ask those who are on virtually, if you could just rename yourself from with the organization, that would be greatly appreciated for all those who are attending. Sometimes, when we last met, we were in person and or most of us were in person, but still, it afforded us some introductions and knowing that we have a little bit of an abbreviated meeting today. We do have some conversations, but once again, just want to say thank you to all those that participated in the last meeting. It has been recorded, the last meeting, and it is on our website, right, Megan? Yes, thank you. So there's a page dedicated, and I'll maybe ask Megan or Paul to put the link in the chat. All of the information, all the conversations are all going to be on our website. So if you miss a meeting or you miss something or the conversation, it will be a good opportunity to go back to that and to share that link to our website. This is the infancy stage. Those that that own the businesses. I see Dan and obviously Dan Evans, and we also have Paul Diamond from sorry, I know Northeastern Machine. I know this, but it's really important that we continue to have that dialogue. So thank you for renaming yourself. And Nelson Fernandez, the Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Rodriguez, is on. So we appreciate that, along with Jeff Thompson, City Council, Ward 5. So without further ado, for those who don't know, my name's Mary Waldron. I'm the Executive Director here at Old Colony Planning Council. And I've been in this position for a little over 6 years. And for when this grant came about, it was finally those that are in the business and MassHire, Greater Brockton, as well as South Shore. You've been in this business of the connecting of higher ed and K through 12 and businesses and a whole folks of people. Thank you very much, Mark Miller. I appreciate that for Artesian Industry. Where our goal is to be focused on continue to meet and stay focused on a strategy. And for some funding down the road, we are going to be applying for some actual further funding to identify what those needs are. So without further ado, I am going to ask Paul Umano to go through the agenda. So I did the welcome already, so thank you. Paul?
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for being on the call this afternoon. Really like the momentum that we had from our last meeting. Just wanted to give a quick recap of some of the themes. I won't go into too much droning on about that, but I think one of the real main takeaways was the engagement piece of this, right? And working with our youth was really something that stood out. And the fact that the marketing aspect of this is something that we still need to really explore, and making sure that we are reaching out to a breadth of different folks. And we've said this before in previous calls. I mean, this is really going to be a team effort, all the way from the municipalities to the industries that are on here, our small businesses, our communities. So you are all the key to this. I think something else that really was striking about the last meeting was, again, the education piece to this, and making sure that we're engaged and folks understand, what these key industries mean. Advanced manufacturing is not what it once was, right? So making sure that that message is loud and clear as we move forward, and how do we build a strategy that implements that. And we'll get into a little bit about that in terms of thoughts on how we develop a marketing strategy on that moving forward. So those were a couple of the big ones. Let me see. I'm trying to look back here if there was anything else that stood out.
I think you captured that pretty well, Paul. Again, there'll be, as you'll see, the agenda that Megan has up. We'll be getting into some of the other marketing strategies, but this is a two-way discussion. So certainly, if those that were on noted that if we missed something, just raise your hand or just unmute yourself and just shout out like if there was something that we missed. And if not, we'll have time at the end to do that. But Paul, do we want to go on to, you go ahead and do this one?
Yeah, so I another key piece to this is the work that Mass Hire is doing, right? And real understanding of the data that goes along with this to really um, reinforce a lot of what we had talked about. So I wanted to give them the opportunity. I see Lorraine is on the call today. I'm not sure if Laura's on yet, but just have them speak a little bit in terms of the workforce data on the key industries and some of the trends that we're seeing, and the work that they've been doing behind the scenes on that. So, Lorraine, I will
Sure.
pitch this right over to you.
Sure. So one of the things, just to start off with, Jason Hunter may be popping on. He's our executive director. He may be popping on, and Laura may be popping on. But we've been meeting behind the scenes over the past month since our last meeting, January 29th. And I just want to give you guys some highlights. I'm really not giving you workforce data today, Paul. We're talking about what our plan is for the Mass Hire report on workforce data. So since the 29th, of which was a great meeting, Mass Hire and Old Colony have been meeting to really look at that timeline for this grant. And we will have a workforce data report by June. That was the time frame that we all decided made sense. And part of that is just because a lot of conversations and looking at information has to still occur. Since the 29th, we actually have met, and when I say we, I mean Laura Buckley from the South Shore Workforce Board, Jason Hunter, and I from Brockton Workforce Board, met with Econoview, Dun & Bradstreet twice. And they are helping us look at some of the information with this specific geographic area that this grant is focusing in on. So basically, it's the Route 24 corridor, Brockton, Avon, Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, Easton, and Stoughton. And we're really looking at advanced manufacturing. Our second meeting is already set for March 12th. So in that first meeting, really it was looking sort of at how the system is going to work, and the person that we're working with, how he's going to be able to pull some of this information together for us. So at that point, I know in the original application, I think we had identified like 55 or 60 different companies that might fit into it. And again, we're still drilling down on this through Econoview, but we came up with like close to 140 companies. Whether or not that ends up being the final number, we shall see. But we are looking at it. Econoview is definitely something people can Google and you can see what it is, but it's workforce development and economic development. It's a great system. We also, of course, use the state system. The Department of Economic Research, their LMI information is something that we already use. Lightcast is something that we already use. So that's where we're drawing our information from, but it's not just one source. I just want to make that clear. We're really trying to delve into a couple of different sources so we're getting the best information we can. Econoview is supposed to be like within the last 3 months. So that's why it's really nice. It's current. With that said, too, some of the things that we'll be looking at is the skills gaps, the emerging trends in manufacturing. We talked in the last meeting about, training apprenticeships. We talked about working with some of our middle schools, our vocational schools. And again, for Mass Hire, the high school piece is something that we are involved with through our Connected Activities program, but we did attend the Division Apprenticeship Standards and Mass Manufacturing Extension Partnership. They had a webinar specifically for manufacturing companies. That just happened. We attended that last week, and we have a follow-up meeting with them with the Career Center and the Workforce Board in Brockton. So that's something related to, I'm just thinking of our MOA, but the purpose of this grant. We also met with the U.S. Small Business Association, sharing information about this Tech Hub grant and trying to figure out ways for them to step in and pull together information and be able to share information, again, specific to this geographic area of this grant. And they're happy and willing to do that. So that was a great meeting, and we have follow-up meetings already planned with that person. We've also, based on the last meeting, reached out to our vocational schools. So Jason Hunter and I are going over to STI, Southeastern Technical Institute. We already have that meeting set up for March 9th. So we're going over there, and we're going to really try to bring them in because I know that was something that came up at the last meeting. We also have reached out to South Shore and have already met with South Shore, but also have another meeting to involve the leadership. So that is still in the works as far as a date goes, but for STI, we're going over on March 9th. So we're excited about that. And then what is this other thing I have here? Oh, so also one of the other points that we talked about, and I know Mike Tomasi's on here. Mike's been involved with this from the very, very beginning, but the SMAMC. So
So
the
explain
SMA,
explain what it is.
yeah, gotta love alphabet soup acronyms. The Southeastern Mass Advanced Manufacturing Consortium. In that group, it's not an organization, it's a group, that was started back in 2014, and that included manufacturing companies across Southeastern Mass, as well as community colleges, as well as workforce board system. That was it primarily, for the most part, the main players at the table, and trainers. So that group has not gotten together really that often over the recent years. And Mike and I actually talked about this a little bit when we were at the manufacturing mashup back in the fall. And they still do have the website. The Greater New Bedford Workforce Board, Mass Hire, actually oversees that website. So to this very second, you could get on the smamc.org website, and they do list trainings. Mass MEP lists things. It still is a resource that the Workforce Board in New Bedford oversees and tries to update. They also have the apprenticeship coordinator for Southeastern Mass on their staff. So Jason and I have already reached out to set up a meeting with them to really kind of go through all of this and figure out, what can we do for SMAMC in the Route 24 corridor area, because it'd be nice if we actually had some stuff going on. I mean, it's great to share the information. That's already still happening a little bit, but I don't know how often they update their website. So there's a little bit of digging that's going on here too, just to kind of get the best, most recent information. And then the second part to that is to also, as this grows and as we apply for other funding, but as this sort of expands along Route 24 into other regions, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. They also have training dollars that we really don't have. Mass Tech Collaborative used to fund us for lean trainings that we're able to offer to the manufacturing companies for their incumbent workforce, and that has shifted. The priority shifted. They still can do pipeline trainings, so we work pretty closely with Mass Tech on this. I am part of another group at Mass Tech, which focuses on some of the trainings that are going on down in this area that I know Mike and Dan have been involved with hiring out of that. But anyway, that's sort of a very quick snapshot on what the workforce system itself has been doing since we met last month. And again, the report will be out in June, and we're just using a lot of different resources. And also part of that will be pulling together focus groups with some of the manufacturing companies, because we don't.
Oh, Lorraine, I think you just froze. Stand by. See, this is what happens when you talk fast and have a lot of information to get out. Give Lorraine just another minute in case. Be there. While Lorraine tries to reconnect, one of the things when I worked at Bridgewater State University and we connected with Greater Brockton Workforce Board, we were able to work with the businesses that identified there. I talked a little bit about it at the last meeting. We identified the needs of the businesses and then looked at higher ed and training organizations, as well as high schools and K through 12, and then who was offering and who wasn't offering, and then seeing what we can do to find funding to have those new skills or the new training to be provided so we can keep the continuity of the businesses. And I think that really worked well. I think we lost Lorraine, but I think you all, oh, nope, there she is. You came back on. There we go. So Lorraine, I just kind of updated them about when I was at Bridgewater State University and working with the iPair and looking at the skills, the gap itself, and identifying like how do we get funding for those institutions and or organizations to have training available so the businesses, either the businesses themselves receive the funding directly,
Right,
and or have the institutions and the VOTEX provide. So I see Paul Bello is also on. So again,
great.
it's great synergy, and thank you for for that recap. I don't know if there was anything else.
No, I think that's about it right now. And we'll just keep you posted on all of this and give updates throughout. So we're excited.
Any questions of for Lorraine? I know that Laura Buckley is on as well from
Oh, good.
South Shore, but I know her internet's a little bit unstable. But anyway, if we can go back to the agenda, and all I really can emphasize on this is the data. It's going to be critical for us to develop that strategy. It's knowing where our numbers are. I will give extraordinary kudos to the charter schools and the high schools and the public schools and working with the colleges and universities for dual enrollment. That is a game changer for a lot of families, particularly within the Brockton area where they, the cost becomes a little bit prohibitive. Although Massasoit, I know, will be going to Corinne next, but having that ability for community colleges to be free. So any questions for Lorraine?
I did have one, Rick Jordan,
Yep.
Town of Avon.
Go ahead, Rick.
I was wondering if some of this work might lead to, I don't know, a PowerPoint for grade 11 and 12 high school students on skills needed or industries in the area that senior high school students might consider for their future.
So usually, sorry, Rick.
Go ahead.
Usually when we do one of these data crunches, I like to call them, like we've done it for construction industry. Mary was involved in a healthcare one that we did when she was at BSU. We do make that available. We put it on our website and we also share it through our Connecting Activities program, which actually, I see your Avon, which actually works with Avon. But we work with 14 different high schools and that would be shared far and wide with all of them. And again, anybody who wants it, we're very happy to share the information when we have it.
And Lorraine, I think to Rick's comment as well, it may be helpful. I serve as one of the co-chairs of the Young Adults Committee. Perhaps we can have a presentation of the work of the Route 24 Tech Hub at the young adults to let them know. Many of the stakeholders I see have representatives on that committee, but I think it could be valuable that, again, talking about it and working on it together so that it's known. But
yeah, it's a great idea, Mary.
Let's keep it. We'll keep that comment in terms of the education and what Rick brought up as a takeaway and getting back to information.
Yep.
Paul, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. And thanks, Lorraine, for all the work that you're doing with MassHire. So as that work continues behind the scenes and we continue to build out the coalition here, I'd be remiss to not thank our could have been potential host if we didn't have a blizzard. Dr. Seven Yun's on the call and just really want her to speak on the work that they're doing with the Future of Work Institute and really the work that our higher eds have been doing. So I will turn over the mic to you, Dr. Seven Yun.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary. So as some of you may know, Massasoit has a site on Main Street shared with the Department of Unemployment Assistance. So we're in that same building. And what that building entails is the Future of Work Institute. So it is really around the think tank space opportunity for the college and the community and employer partners to engage in conversations around what work will be looking like in the next 5 to 10 years. What specific programming should Massasoit be paying attention to so that our programs align with the needs of employer partners? We have transfer programs, we have certificate programs, but we also have applied programs where students are completing their 2-year degree or certificate and wanting to go directly into work. So a lot of our programs have traditionally been the liberal arts, the sciences. We do have, as many know, our diesel program in Canton, our HVAC program in Canton. But what we want to be able to do is identify specifically what areas in industry are going to be the up and coming hot items that we should be paying attention to and designing curriculum around those needs, as well as apprenticeship opportunities that we're now starting to pay attention to as a need for employer and student to earn and learn at the same time that they're obtaining their degree. We've delved into programming around, of course, the CEC initiatives, which include electrification of diesel, have worked with the mass hires to recruit students in the construction and trades areas. We've resurrected our HVAC program because that's an area between a lot of what these conversations are around in regards to advanced manufacturing, in regards to AI, in regards to data centers. So wanting to understand what specific needs Massasoit can help serve to funnel that pipeline into these industry partners and building out the Route 24 to meet the need of having a training facility for the purpose of advancing these careers. Again, what we tend to do is focus on specialized populations so that they are able to fill some of these voids in employment sectors. So we do a lot of work with returning citizens. We are working with emerging adults that are involved in DYS, DCF, and again, the trial courts. So wanting to make sure that there's opportunity and access for everyone within our region to be able to make sure that employer partners understand what our mission is so that we can come together more aligned in understanding our needs versus employer needs and being able to bridge that gap so that we can increase employment pipelines. So right now, a couple of initiatives that we're working on again is building out our HVAC program to include facilities operations, building out our diesel program to include electrification of heavy equipment and trucks. And we are looking into AI as it builds itself out into a lot of these STEM areas, just in regards to usage of the software to help alleviate some tasks, not necessarily taking away roles, but having employees understand the use of it to support some of the advancement within employer sectors. So with that, we always are open to engaging in conversation with the community. I've opened up my space for meetings as far as what employer partners would like to do with working with the college to have space to do that. We've had employer roundtable lunches that we've used as that catalyst to build that relationship building within the region. So I, again, would emphasize that the college's focus is on building that community and employer partnership. So if there's ever a need to host a meeting or visit the space, we are there full time Monday through Friday. So please feel free to stop by. Any new ideas or any way into the college that you're looking to utilize space for training or again engage in needs of programming, please reach out to us.
And this is great. First and foremost, I should have said thank you for offering. We were to be meeting at your space today, but the snowmageddon, whatever we're going to call it. I think there might be some other expletive words, Nelson, that you might want to use. But anyway, what we will do, we will hold. I think it's really important that we come to this space. Specifically as what you talked about in terms of focusing on Route 24, our partners at Stonehill with Rikelion, as well as with Bridgewater State. You know, again, this is not the competition. What this is us all working together and knowing who is offering what and when. And many moons ago, I want to say too many years ago, I know we were looking at a college collaborative for a downtown location that was UMass and Stonehill and Bridgewater State and Massasoit. And unfortunately, the funding went away. But the idea was who's offering what again? Who's not offering them? What are the needs? And filling that gap, working with the Voc Tech, working with the high schools and elementary. So we will, Paul will get to this to the end, but what I would like to offer is for the next time we do meet, let's plan. I think it's really important to maybe do a little bit of a walking tour. We start at Massasoit at the Future of Work Institute, go to the Greater Brockton Workforce Board and see what they have. And then, you know, again, we have chambers of commerces and of the like. So, Corinne, thank you again. how about if there's any questions of Corinne? If not, thank you again. Paul, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, just to echo what you just said, Mary, I think it's important as we move this project forward that we come to you guys and we see that the work that you're doing in your respective fields, right? And getting a better understanding of how we continue to build out this strategy and actually see things happening in real time would be great. And being able to, get a better understanding, firsthand understanding of what's being done. Um, so with that, as far as how do we proceed moving forward, I think again, one of the big takeaways is is marketing out of everything, and how do we market um, the ideas that we've presented thus far. Actually, Mary and I talked about this a little bit this week, and the possibility of working with you all if if there's a marketing person within your particular organization to where we can work with you to get the word out, right? And what does that actually look like? Um, you know, what are some of the key elements that we should be looking into in terms of how we market this out to your respective entities, as well as collectively as a whole, particularly on our website as we continue to build this out. So,
Well, my
um,
my thought on this, Paul, is just to piggyback on what you just talked about, is in fact having this working group. So in my office, I am not the marketing person. I am a good stick figure, but that's about all. But having someone like Megan Fournier from our staff be part of this discussion, but Dan, and if it might be individually each of you, but it's also having. Thanks, Rick. I know you got to sign off, but I think it's going to be really important that if you do have a marketing person, if you have a public relations, you have something of what looks like marketing, let's pull all of us together and then pull together a separate strategy. I think it's really important. Well, the work and the discussion and the data, but I heard it pretty clear from all of the businesses that were on last time is that it's getting past that stigma of what manufacturing is. And I think having how to talk to young people is one of the things we talked about the last time. But so if you have somebody that you have in mind that can, and this means the colleges, the universities, South, the Voc-Techs, anybody that's on, if you have someone who's with marketing, have them send the information or the contact to Paul and I, and then we will have Megan develop a meeting so that can go on simultaneously as we're talking about the data. I don't know what folks feel about that, if you think that's a good idea, but some staff are and some businesses are small staff, so you may not have a direct marketing person. Great. Chris?
Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you all virtually. At some point, I'd love to do introductions so I know who's on the call. I know I'm coming to the conversation a little late. I just wanted a clarifying question. Can you just summarize, Mary, who we're marketing to and for what specific goal?
Sure. And then I can definitely do that, Chris, because it could be helpful. At the last meeting we had, we asked particularly the companies, the private businesses, what their needs are. And we heard over and over, it's the marketing, it's public relations. It's, again, like I said, the stigma of what manufacturing is, what it is and what it isn't. Everybody, there's this thought about it's the old machinery, and quite frankly, and I just know Dan and a few others, it's much more high tech than that. Hence the funding that we're getting from the Tech Hub, from the Mass Collaborative. So that's the marketing piece. That's the role that we're looking to, particularly within the Route 24 corridor. I'm not looking for the state of Massachusetts. I'm looking for our 6 communities for right now. And it's looking at the needs. Again, this is private business and people who are in the industry itself, helping identify, where they've gone, what has worked, what hasn't worked, what haven't they tried, and then bringing in some folks and people like Megan and others who have different ways of communicating, and not just plain LinkedIn, but it's also lots of different new ways of identifying and in fact taking this marketing and going to the young people and asking them, is this the way that's going to work? I remembered, and some of us who were on there when a few years ago when the city of Brockton was doing a marketing of itself, they never went to young people. They just, I mean, it's great, it was, but I can't tell you what I can't tell you what the tagline is anymore, to no disrespect to the city of Brockton, but we need to be able to get young people to have part of the say, because if this is going to continue, it can't be a 65-year-old woman who's been around for a while saying, hey, let's work it this way, when they're not reading newspapers it themselves. So Chris, go ahead.
Thank you so much. That is super helpful. And I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the conversation correctly. So one of the things that we specialize in, what we do, is elevating the voices of people with lived experience, which includes workers and learners. And one of the ideas that I think I've talked to Mike about, and Paul, this might have skirted our conversation as well. Was wondering about what the collective thought about a co-design lab, design and build, where young people and employers come together specifically to go through a design sprint around what marketing might look like, but making sure, to your point, Mary, that young people are at the table from the very beginning of the conversation. And then after that, design sprint, piloting, and then assessing. I think that kind of targeted engagement would be very attractive to school partners, realizing, of course, that at this point they are completely booked till the end of the year, but it's a great time to start talking about, I saw Mass Hire was on here, maybe as a summer youth employment program, if we're able to leverage that funding to pay for youth stipends to participate. Or something that we could talk to the vocational schools about piloting in the fall. So I did want to put that idea out there.
So I do know that at Mass Hire, that's where I think coming and going to see what they have. I know that Secretary of Labor has been there as well. There is a lab right here at 34 School Street. And I know that there's been some of the very unique design. What specifically, as you mentioned, Chris, is another matter. The point I think for us would be not to recreate the wheel. That's why an assessment of what is currently going on, to the point you raised, and then hearing about the needs, and to the point of having young people start and to finish. And I really want to make sure that we're also including our charter school. I know New Heights has a great relationship with Massasoit and others. And they're continuing to grow. And so this piece about marketing probably in itself needs a discussion. And if you are interested, like I said, either put it in the chat and or just reach out to Paul or myself, and we'll get that. I think the sooner we can get that meeting going, because we are in February. February school vacation already happened. And thank you, Chris. And then I know that the colleges are going to be going on school vacation. Maybe with the snow, maybe school might be in longer than we want it to be, but June is going to come up, right? The academic world, that's one of the things that many of you have been engaged. The academic world, we need to be cognizant of that timing. Summertime, yes, while there might be summer internships going on, but for the most part, there's a lot of folks that there becomes I don't want to say disengaged, but we need to be able to capture how we're going to continue to do that. So that would be great. I'd love to have others comment in terms of what Chris was suggesting. I know Eliza put a comment in there in terms of a design center. So Lorraine, maybe if you, and I don't know if Laura, if you're able to have your connections good enough, but or anybody else that might have something similar. I know, Corinne, I don't know if this is something that you've thought about for the Future of Work Institute. Go ahead. Anybody, just unmute yourself and chat. Lorraine, maybe go ahead.
Yeah, so I would have to be honest with you, I'd have to talk with youth services and find out what's going on downstairs with some of that. I know that we have in general labs and we have trainings that are going on down there. And certainly to Chris's point, Summer jobs is always a huge piece of it. Career exploration and work and paid work. So this is something that we could definitely bring to the youth services team, Mary, and just, get them in Jason, of course, but just kind of bring them into the loop on this part of the conversation.
Great, thank you. And Laura, I don't know if there's anything at South Shore. And if not, don't worry about it. Anybody else, maybe Corinne at Massasoit? If you might know.
I don't, Mary. The
That's
only
okay.
thing I would bring into the fold would be the early college access office who
Perfect.
work with the New Heights and the Brockton High.
So it sounds like through this discussion, assessing what is out there, right? And more importantly, the gap of what may not be out there, so we can, as we start marketing, having that be part of the process of getting to the young people. So,
I do have a question though.
mhm.
So we talk about our young people in charter schools and these people that want to learn about manufacturing. Have we developed any system for summer to utilize some of the vocational schools that we're not using our manufacturing areas to develop maybe a summer camp to get these people out there and develop them so they can understand manufacturing, 3D printing? Because these operations are honestly they're not being used at all in the summer. And to get somebody young, 10th or 11th grader, to understand it, or even a senior that's going to be a senior, it could expose them to maybe going into the manufacturing world.
I think, Paul, those are great questions. We're sitting February. At one point I was thinking we're going to need to meet on a quarterly basis, and we'll get to that in terms of next steps. But this sounds like something in terms of this specific piece, in terms of summer coming up, and sort of goes onto the side, not so much on marketing, but more so on addressing some of the needs of the youth. I would welcome if folks are available. I think the next meeting, we'll do quarterly meetings, but I think the specific one, we probably should meet within the next month, just so we don't miss out on the timing before summer hits. So if there's an opportunity to make any kind of decisions or find some funding, I think it will be critical.
Yeah, we have talked about the idea, and it was in our application of creating some sort of co-working space, right? I'd love to continue to pick your brains and figure out what that's going to look like or could look like potentially. And that means seeing what we have existing and seeing how we can really build that out. I know that in our application we talked about the idea of an incubator space, right? And what that would look like, and finding funding for training and some of the tools that are needed to do some of the careers that we're seeing. So particularly in advanced manufacturing. So yeah, definitely hold that thought. I think that that's something that's important as we continue to build out our strategy. I think that's going to be a key part of our strategy, in addition to the marketing component to that.
So in the chat, Paul, there's been a couple, there's already like a subculture discussion going on, which I think is really healthy for us. Eliza did some research in terms of Mass CEC has some deadlines for training grants. So, and hearing back again from Mark and others that loving the idea of the design center. So if I can just do a quick pause, and I am going to, because I think Chris, for you coming in for this meeting, let's just do like a quick, I did ask everybody to rename themselves so you can see who's attending. And I think if you pull up the chat, you can see who's on. But unless someone feels differently, I mean, if you can just introduce yourself, besides myself, Paul Diamond, maybe you just introduce yourself. I'll just do some shout outs. Oh, I can't hear you, Paul. You are unmuted. Maybe your volume. Can anybody else hear him? Yeah, no. Sorry, Paul. But I have you listed from Northeastern Machine, so based in Easton, Massachusetts, and thank you for being part of it. Corinne, I know that from Massasoit you spoke already. Cheryl?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Schnitzer. I'm the director of the Photonics and Optical Engineering Certificate Program at Stonehill.
There we go. See, there we go. And I know Mark, but you did it in the chat, but why don't you just unmute yourself? Thank you for being on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Miller. I'm the president of Artisan Industries. We're in Stoughton, and we design and build precision separation equipment, and we sell it globally.
Thank you. Chris, maybe just, I know you sort of did a little bit of Chris Shannon, but I don't know if you want to add anything.
Absolutely. So I work at the Corporation for a Skilled Workforce. We're a nonprofit that helps people make strategic decisions to move economic inclusion for those structurally left behind. And we work specifically in the workforce development and education spaces. I have over 12 years of working in the formal workforce system here in Massachusetts. I was the previous tech prep coordinator for Bristol County at BCC.
Thank you very much, Chris. Paul Bello, why don't you go ahead?
I'm Paul Bello. I'm the Director of Career and Community Development, and also CTI and CTE.
Thank you very much for adding that. Don Sullivan? Oh,
Don Sullivan, OCPC Economic Development Director.
thank you. Megan?
Hi, Megan Fournier, Communications and Operations Manager for Old Colony Planning Council.
Thanks, Megan. Nelson?
Good afternoon, everyone. Nelson Fernandez, Deputy Chief of Staff for the Mayor of Brockton.
Thank you, Nelson. Dan Evans, since you're unmuted.
Dan Evans, President of EMI Evans Machine. Sorry if my camera's not working. I don't understand it. But we're advanced manufacturing located in Brockton since 1984. So this is very important to us. A lot of interest.
That's
Thank
good
you.
to hear, Dan. Thank you. Michael?
Good afternoon. I think I know most of you. Michael Tomasi, President and CEO of AccuRounds Contract Precision Machining.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. I do not know who's Primo Medical Group. You can just unmute yourself. If you don't, then I'm going to move on. Shane O'Brien.
Hey, Mary, how's it going? Shane O'Brien, town planner for the town of Bridgewater.
Thank you very much, Shane. I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Thompson, Brockton's Ward 5 City Councilor.
Great. Thank you, Jeffrey. Dr. Wilson.
Hi, Eliza Wilson, excuse me. And I'm serving as interim executive director of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. And so when we think about Tech Hub, which now means we're eligible for more tech funding, to reposition Brockton as a leader in manufacturing is very exciting. And particularly as we look at climate tech and also getting more into design and design literacy in our schools as well.
Thank you, Eliza. Just so I'm clear too, that this is a regional. So what, yes, you represent Brockton. We're looking to have the 6 communities that are part of this and our other also be the leaders in, and because I know like Mike Tomasi is in Avon, and we have, as it was mentioned, in Easton, and then also in Stoughton. So certainly Brockton is a big piece of this, and working with all of these other communities. Ken Kirkland from the town of Easton.
Hey, Mary, guys. I have a lot of I think you guys, Shane, I remember when you worked for Rob when I first moved to Brockton 10 years ago. But I know a lot of you, my OCPC crew, you guys are very familiar, and I know one of you took my job in Norwell a couple weeks ago. But I'm glad to be back up here, Planning Community Development Director for Easton. Stephanie did retire, well earned. So I appreciate. I know I got some good shoes to fill in, but I am intimately familiar with, with the area. I spent 10 years in Brockton. I watched the Gerald Lucy building go up, and the Dodge Brothers painted advertisement that was on the side of the building when they, the brick building on the side when they took it down, that was rediscovered. So that was nice. And just for the record, I lived in the Times building, so I was able to look at OCPC if I stood on my roof.
I love that Times building. So Ken, you just named a couple things that you just sort of dated yourself, by the way, but I'm glad to, your familiarity with the region and OCPC, but also the communities, as you can see, right, there are lots of great discussions that are happening today. I know Laura Buckley, I don't know if you want to just introduce yourself if you're still able to. So if she's not able to, I think for Chris's perspective, right, and for everybody else's, we have a nice cross representation of our communities. We are missing a couple. West Bridgewater isn't on, in East Bridgewater, but that's why we're recording this. It's going to be on our website for minutes and the recording, and will be available to share. But more importantly is the conversations that we build upon it, right? So Mike and the private industries talked about the marketing. We're going to still do that. But in the meantime, what we're hearing today is let's do an inventory of what is occurring within the VOTEC and workforce boards, and even within the businesses themselves, what relationship and how do we build upon it, right? How do we continue to support, and lots of good comments within the chat. If you haven't read through them, please do that. We will share the Mass CEC in terms of, oh, good. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Plymouth was damaged with a lot of the storm as well. But again, this is building upon all the great work that's being done, and we want to be here. The goal of this grant is, in fact, to develop that strategy. So having the representations of all 6 communities, having representation of all higher education, it's representative of all businesses and your needs for even those businesses that are on, from Dan Evans to then Mike Tomasi. Your needs are similar in many ways, and yet you have some different ones as well. And then it's a matter of how putting together a grant so we can continue to find the funding to support that, whether it's more training dollars or looking at developing a design lab, and where does it go, and making sure if we're going to put it somewhere, it has to be accessible for those who do not have cars, right? It has to be access to the jobs and access to the training is pretty critical, particularly within an urban community like Brockton. So I think, Paul, we want to talk about some next steps. We did a little bit today.
Yeah, so I think next steps are really just continuing to build off of these conversations, right? And I think the important pieces as we move forward is continuing the dialogue and making sure that we're going to you. I think we talked about education sort of as the next piece of this, but eventually we'd like to go before select boards. Obviously, one of the companies would be gracious enough to host one of these meetings. We'd be more than happy to do that in partnership with you. But in terms of making sure that we have the next meeting teed up, the thought is that we'll do this on a quarterly basis. That's not to say that any ideas that you continue to have, please feel free to share that with us as we continue to build out the strategy and continue to build out these partnerships and coalitions. So I have a day set up for June. So if that works for you all, my thought was potentially June 4th. Let's keep it on a Thursday type of rolling schedule.
Just
So
if there's a thumbs up that June 4th works for folks, since we have, it does not work for you, Chris. Here's my challenge. We have a lot of folks for scheduling. But I think, Chris, for you, there'll be a group that meets sooner in terms of the working with the workforce boards and well as the education institutions about the assessment, right? Getting an asset based assessment of what we have available. So just again, hands for particularly for private as well as for the public. Paul and Michael and Dan, does that work for you? Oh, good. Okay. All right. Let's do the June 4th and if perfect, great. Let's do the June 4th. and what I would recommend, we will send out a notice when we're going to meet next month on the education piece. For those that can attend, great. It will be more of my hope it will be a in-person so we can really kind of put things on boards and do some brainstorming. And then everybody's going to get a little bit of a task to come back with so we can really have that June 4th meeting be productive about reporting out from there. That sounds okay. Sounds like a board meeting for me, but so thank that
Mary.
it's go ahead.
Mary, Dan Evans, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just,
No, you're good.
June 4th is great, but if anyone is thinking about, I think that June 4th is too late for what Paul Bello was talking about earlier, which is a tremendous opportunity for us. South Shore Votech is got an amazing facility. It's all state of the art. It's new. It's as does Southeastern, and we should take advantage of that. And if they're running these boot camps in the summer, and we've already identified marketing as a key piece to this whole program, if anyone can think of ways to market this summer program, and if we can fill it up, it does the industry.
I do think you're right, Dan. I think the June 4th is too late. What I was aiming for is like a meeting in March for the education piece. Like, let's take what Paul's talking about. So while we have everybody, I think it is March. I know I'm going to look to Corinne and maybe Marie just to tell me if when is school vacation for the colleges?
We have vacation March 16th.
Okay. We're going to stay away from that week. And I know like Bridgewater State is usually the week before, if I'm correct with that, but I'll take another look. Maybe I hate to go for that last week of March, but maybe we'll aim for that last week of like the March 23rd, 24th, somewhere around there. I have my board meeting, but that's okay. We can work around that. Anybody have particularly, I'm looking at Chris, Shannon, Lorraine, anything that, so you know what I'll do for that meeting? Let me put out a doodle poll. They'll be easiest and we'll pick a date to go that way. That would be it'll be important to have all the institutions, Votex and others be at the table. So, great. How about any other comments? Thank you, Dan, for that. That really is helpful to hear. We need to be able to support what Paul and others are doing. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe out there and let's think sun, no snow. Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your
Bye-bye.
time. Take care.